What's that I hear? A Superman movie ranking? Well... It is so itchy in this thing, oh my god. Could have gotten a movie accurate suit that was actually surprisingly cheap, but I like to make my life miserable. What was I talking about again? Oh right, media litter are people's favorite punching bag. So we all know the big three of superheroes. Spider-Man, Batman, and Superman. The trinity of superheroes that even people who have never experienced a piece of media involving a superhero have heard of. So with their immense popularity, they of course have gotten video games, toys, cartoons, TV shows, and movies. Now, while Batman and Spider-Man have entire trilogies worth of movies that are beloved by comic book fans and movie lovers alike, Superman, he has like one movie people really love, and then it gets murkier after that for the next 50-ish years. That's an understatement. Which is weird, because while he's still a really interesting and complex character, out of the big three, I feel like Superman is the easiest to nail down in a movie. But it seems like they nailed it once back in 1978, and never did it again. Or did they? Well, with the release of James Gunn's new Superman movie kicking off the DCU, kind of. I want to take a look back at Superman's history through cinema to determine whether the new movie is a contender with the previous movies, which, believe it or not, is not a very high bar. So what am I counting for the list? Well, I'm counting the 4 Reeve movies with a small little addition that I'll talk about when we get to a certain movie. Superman Returns, Man of Steel, Batman vs. Superman, and finally, James Gunn's Superman. So yeah, no animated stuff, none of the really old movies, neither of the Justice League movies, because I really don't feel like sitting through one of the worst movies I've ever seen, and a 4-hour movie for this ranking. Also, because Superman is barely in either of them. Like, you wouldn't put Avengers Endgame in a Spider-Man movie ranking now, would you? And besides that, that is about it. Also, I swear if I get one comment saying that I forgot to add Supergirl to the list, you're gonna be hearing from my lawyer. With all this being said, here it is. All 8-ish Superman movies ranked from worst to best. Let's get this show started. Number 8. Superman 4, The Quest for Peace. Shocking, probably none of you. Dead Last is one of the most infamous superhero movies ever created. Superman 4, The Quest for Peace. Like, this is up there with Batman and Robin, Catwoman, Green Lantern, Justice League, The Flash. Oh my god, DC is responsible for so many of the worst superhero movies of all time. Where do I even begin with this? Superman gives one little speech and convinces every major country, including Russia and the United States, to give up their nukes. I feel like I can just stop there and move on to the next entry. Like, Superman trying to create peace during the Cold War is an interesting concept, but the execution is laughably bad. This movie is so beyond stupid, yet the actual plot is really generic. The action is awful. The fight on the moon has some of the worst editing I have seen in a very long time. The dialogue is just... This is a real scene from the movie.
If you will not tell me, I will hurt people.
I really want to believe that was improvised on the spot. There is no earthly way that was written and approved by actual human beings. I know it had a smaller budget, but the effects in this movie look laughable compared to a movie released 9 years beforehand. The amount of recycled and stock footage used in this movie is embarrassing. Actors like Christopher Reeve and Gene Hackman, rest in peace to both of you, are really trying their best to make this script work. Lenny Luthor isn't a good character, but John Cryer going on to play a really good Lex Luthor in the Supergirl show was nice. Nuclear Man is an absolutely pitiful villain, and I can see why his actor only has 1 acting credit. The story is all over the place. I'm really grasping for straws here. Look, this movie has been getting dunked on for 38 years at this point. I have absolutely nothing new to add to the conversation. I will say that this is indeed a funny bad movie, which does help it score a little bit, but some ironic enjoyment and some actors trying their best can't save this absolute train wreck of an initial ending to the Reeve movies. 2 out of 10. Number 7. Batman vs. Superman, Dawn of Justice. Yeah, this is not gonna be a video Snyder fans are gonna like very much. But I don't like Snyder fans, so I guess it checks out. Listen, if you like the Snyder movies, that's perfectly fine. Just don't be a jerk about it in the comments. Anyways, the more I watch BVS, the less I like it. First off, let me talk about some of its positives. The actors are really good in this movie. Henry Cavill and Ben Affleck are really giving it their all in these roles. The cinematography looks pretty good, and the music's alright. Yeah, that's about it. Look, this movie is terrible. This is not Batman or Superman. Batman is not a murderous nutjob who uses guns, and Superman is not a Jesus metaphor who apparently would rather ore farm than save lives. We'll get to that second point more when we get to Man of Steel, but when Superman 4 has a better Superman adaptation than you really messed up somewhere. If you thought Steve and Tony's conflict in Civil War was a bit contrived, which it's not. Oh boy, you have not seen this movie. It's like we're given reasons why both of them dislike the other. Batman thinks Superman could be a threat to Earth. Superman doesn't like Batman's violent vigilantism. But then they give Clark a new reason to fight Bruce because if he doesn't, Lex is gonna kill his mom. Which, why doesn't Clark just pick up Bruce and tell him, hey Bruce, Lex Luthor has kidnapped my mother. Can we not do this and please save her? It really can't be this hard to give Batman and Superman a reason to logically fight each other. I mean, for God's sake, The Dark Knight Returns Part 2 did this concept better. Then again, The Dark Knight Returns Part 2 does a lot of things better than a lot of live-action Batman movies. And overall, I don't think either of these characters have good natural development in this movie. Again, if you like him, more power to you. But I do not understand why some people say Batfleck is the best Batman. He's in 3 canon movies. He's terrible in 2 of them, and he's okay in 1 of them. The actual fight is kind of underwhelming, to be honest. Like, obviously I don't expect him to go crashing through buildings at supersonic speeds like Man of Steel, but I don't know, it just feels like something's missing here. Oh, I know what it is. A reason for me to care about this conflict. And I get what Snyder was going for with the Martha scene, but it could have been executed so much better. Also, Clark didn't think to mention this to Bruce before they fought. Diana is in this movie, and she feels like she's mainly here to set up the Justice League and fight Doomsday in the 3rd act. She's really boring, not helped by the fact that she's played by Gal Gadot. Lois in this movie kind of just exists. Alfred's pretty good, but like, when has a DC story ever had a bad adaptation of Alfred Pennyworth? Lex in this movie is just so weird. I get that they were gonna eventually build him into the Lex we all know and love, and that he's more of a tech bro, Mark Zuckerberg type character, but this Lex feels so odd. He feels more like the Riddler than he does Lex Luthor. Though Jesse Eisenberg is really giving it his all in this movie. Doomsday in this movie doesn't feel built up at all, and I absolutely hate his design. Killing off Superman in his 2nd appearance in this universe was certainly a decision. I think this movie's biggest crime is just that it's so boring. Like, on top of me not being invested in either of these versions of these characters and the writing being bad, it's just so dull. And before I hear someone say, no, you have to watch the Ultimate Cut, that's the better version of the movie. The Ultimate Cut is what I am talking about right now. I know I'm not saying anything brave with this, but Batman vs Superman Dawn of Justice is not a good movie. Mediocre pacing, bad story, terrible execution of its concepts, and a fundamental misunderstanding of the characters of Batman and Superman. 2.5 out of 10. It barely beats Superman 4 because of its cinematography, acting, and the fact that it actually feels like a movie and not a stock footage filled mess. But besides that, this movie is terrible. Next, number 6. Superman 3. You know, a really great way of telling the quality of a Superman movie is if Clark's screen time in said movie is about on par with his screen time in Justice League. Superman 3 is bad. Really, really bad. Like I inferred before, Superman is barely in this movie. It's more focused on Richard Pryor playing this bumbling buffoon who isn't funny or entertaining at all. Apparently Richard Pryor is a really funny comedian, so I don't know what happened here. There's this Lex Luthor type character who wants to destroy Superman. He's literally just Lex, but not Gene Hackman, because Gene Hackman didn't support Richard Donner being fired, so he didn't come back for this movie. The first half of this movie feels like a bad Three Stooges skit with these morons just doing villain stuff. This movie originally involved Brainiac and Supergirl. How did we get from that to this nonsense? Then again, maybe involving Supergirl in this movie wouldn't have been the best decision. Then we have evil Superman. He's not Bizarro, he's just Superman separated from Clark Kent and evil. And to be fair, evil Superman just doing evil stuff had some entertaining moments. Evil Superman pushing the Leaning Tower of Pisa up straight was kind of funny, but it's mostly just Superman being a jerk and being horny. The Clark vs. Superman fight was okay, I guess. Wait a minute. Third installment in a superhero series involving one of the big three. One of the villains is a downgrade of the villain from the first movie. Good portion of the movie involves the hero being evil and acting mean and horny. Hero has to fight with himself either metaphorically or literally, and the movie isn't good? This is just Spider-Man 3! I feel like not enough people talk about this comparison. It's genuinely insane. At least Spider-Man 3 is entertaining. This movie is just all over the place. And I am talking about Superman himself as much as he appears in this movie. Not that much. Overall, Superman 3 is a boring mess that focuses more on Richard Pryor being a bumbling annoyance than the title character, and has this unshakable feeling that they had no idea what they were doing with this series anymore. The mild entertainment of some of the evil Superman bits and Christopher Reeve once again giving a really good performance carry this movie hard. 3 out of 10. The start of the downfall for this series. Number 5. Man of Steel. I have tried my hardest for the last couple of years to see what others see in this movie. I really have. But I just don't enjoy Man of Steel. I don't think it's a bad movie, it's just more meh. Okay, let's start off with what I like. The performances are good. Henry Cavill is definitely a good Superman acting-wise. The effects look good. Hans Zimmer's score is incredible, unsurprisingly. I like that they give Superman his own theme in this movie instead of just reusing the John Williams theme. Like, don't get me wrong, I love that theme, but this theme just gives this Superman his own identity. I like seeing these flashbacks of child Clark first discovering his powers, like the heat vision scene. The suit looks alright, the action choreography is alright, and the first fight scene is genuinely a great scene. Now for my negatives. The writing. This movie seems confused about its own opinion of what Superman should be. The theme of the movie and Clark's arc is meant to be that Clark shouldn't hide his powers and that he should save people. Saving people is like the number one thing for Superman. One of his biggest internal conflicts is that even with his immense and almost infinite strength, he can't save everyone no matter how hard he tries. So guess what Superman doesn't do in either the Smallville fight or the Metropolis fight? Hey Superman, my daughter is dying under all this rubble. Stop ore farming and please save her. Like, people talk about how good the fight scenes are in this movie, that it distracts them from how Superman's character gets majorly damaged in these scenes. Like in both fights, he has many opportunities to take the fight to a place where innocent people aren't gonna get hurt, especially the Smallville fight, and he just chooses not to. Doesn't help that he never emotes when surrounded by all this destruction. Like, Henry Cavill is a great actor, why are you not letting him act? They also try to turn Superman into some Jesus metaphor, which is just like, why? They try to give Superman these conflicts of whether he should save people because, oh, Superman is too OP in the comics. He can save everyone. We gotta give him a conflict of whether he wants to save people or not. Which is such an annoyingly frustrating misunderstanding of Superman's character, and the fact that we've had to deal with the nonsensical viewpoint of normal, cheesy, good Superman equals boring Superman for a decade at this point. I'm not gonna put all the blame on this movie because Injustice was released a couple months beforehand, but I'm also not going to pretend like this movie and the other DCEU Superman movies didn't do major damage to the public's view on Superman during the 2010s. I'm realizing now this is the second video in a row where I complain about the mischaracterization of a red and blue themed superhero in a movie series. I swear this wasn't intentional. Lois isn't great in this movie, and I don't think her and Clark have great chemistry. I understand what they were going for with Pa Kent, but his death scene is still so stupid. Clark can run at super speed to the point where no one will even know it's him who saved you. This scene is so dumb. Zod is an okay villain, but some people overrate him to high heaven. The pacing of this movie feels really slow, and when not much interesting is happening on screen, it makes the movie very, very boring. So yeah, Man of Steel is very meh. It has its strong points, but it tries to reinvent the wheel with a character who was perfectly fine beforehand. Plus, it doesn't even give him the full arc that it thinks it does. On top of sloppy writing and bad pacing, yeah, I'm not a big fan of this movie. I genuinely don't see it when people call this one of the best DC movies of all time, one of the best superhero origin movies of all time, and one of the best superhero movies of all time. Overall, it is a mediocre start to a very not good cinematic universe. 4.5 out of 10. It's on the verge of a 5, but my problems with Clark's characterization keep it from getting that score. Number 4. Superman Returns. I can't believe they got an actor to play Lex Luthor in this movie who's somehow an even worse human being than Lex usually is. This movie is just weird. I think Brandon Routh gives a good performance as Superman, even though this movie really doesn't let him be his own character that much. Thank God he got to shine more in the Arrowverse Crisis event. The effects look good, the score is great, it has some really solid action scenes, especially the plane scene. And I really like how this movie keeps the charming, campy but heroic Superman from the Reeve movies. But I also do feel like that's a double-edged sword. This movie's biggest problem is its tone. It tries to capture the cheesy, campy tone from the Reeve movies while trying to balance it with a more serious tone akin to something like Man of Steel. And I don't think it balances those tones well at all. And this movie has such a massive identity crisis. It wants to try and stand on its own as the brand new Superman, but it's also this weird pseudo-sequel to the Reeve movies. I think this movie is overly long. Superman movies do not need to be 5 minutes longer than Avengers Infinity War. The pacing is a major problem. The story really doesn't do anything interesting with Superman as a character. Kate Bosworth really isn't that good of a Lois, and James Marsden is in this movie. That isn't a positive or negative, I just wanted to mention that. And even ignoring him as a person in real life, I don't think Kevin Spacey is a very good Lex Luthor. For such a long movie, it really doesn't give me much to talk about. It is a perfectly okay movie. I just feel like it had a lot of potential that was just wasted. And besides Brandon getting to come back one more time as Clark in the Arrowverse Crisis event, I don't think that potential is ever gonna get salvaged again. It has a lot of positives, but it's also got a lot of negatives, bringing it down to being just average. 5 out of 10. Number 3. Superman 2. Now for this section, I'm counting both the Richard Lester theatrical cut and the Richard Donner cut from 2006. Not because they're representing the same movie, but because they're on about equal lengths in quality. These movies were basically the early days of comic book movies equivalent to the Justice League fiasco. Donner and the studio butted heads over this movie, and he ended up getting replaced by Lester halfway through production. It's the same thing as this, minus the studio replacing the original director while they were grieving for their dead child. Listen, I may disagree with a lot of Snyder's ideals on Batman and Superman, but that was just horrible to do to the guy. The theatrical cut is kind of a mess. But not like a horrible mess like the last two Reeve movies. It still has the charm of the original. Reeve and Kidder have the same good chemistry in this movie, even with the kind of weird kiss at the end. Also, people act like this ability Superman has of removing people's memories with a kiss is so out there, when like, this is far from the weirdest ability Superman has ever had, especially compared to the comics. I think some of the action is solid, the score is great, and once again, Reeve is great in this role. Zod and his cronies are alright antagonists. But the plot of this movie is a big mess. Superman is so blindly in love and focused on Lois that he doesn't even notice Zod wreaking havoc all over the world. Like, the Clark and Lois moments are nice, but this just feels really dumb. And it's really obvious at certain points that the movie had major behind the scenes issues between some actors not coming back for reshoots, thus having some continuity issues. But it's still a decent enough time. As for the Donner cut, this is what I would like to call the cooler Daniel version of the Snyder cut. It's like a hair better version of the movie. I like that we got to see Richard Donner's vision for the movie, but it's also got a lot of the original cut's problems. I feel like a combination of these cuts, taking the best elements of both movies, could make for a really great version of Superman 2. But as they are now, they're decent enough times. Both of these movies collectively take up the number 3 spot. I'll give the lesser cut of Superman 2 a 6.5 out of 10 and the Donner cut a 7 out of 10. But now, ladies and gents, this is the moment you've waited for. The debate you've been waiting for me to settle all video. Is James Gunn's new Superman movie the new king of Superman movies, or does Superman 78 keep its nearly 50-year-old crown? Let's find out, shall we? The silver medal and number 2 spot on this list goes to Superman 78. This is not a bit. I am being dead serious. Now let's make one thing extremely clear. I love Superman 78, or if you want to be the DC equivalent of a Spider-Man fan about it, Superman the movie. There is a giant leap in quality from number 3 on the list to number 2 on the list. I see Superman 78 almost like the original Star Wars, just not as good. What I mean by that is that this movie screams iconic. First off, I know I keep mentioning it, but it's especially true here. Christopher Reeve is an excellent Superman. His performance especially gets to shine here because he's working with an actually good script. He balances Clark Kent and Superman so well. Margot Kidder is a great Lois Lane, and Reeve and Kidder's chemistry is just amazing. John Williams' score is so iconic that it's basically become Superman's theme in a lot of media. The flying controls suck in LEGO Batman 2, but at least I get to enjoy listening to Superman's theme song while dealing with them. This is one of those comic book movies that feels like a comic book movie the most. Like, Superman flying around the Earth to go back in time to save Lois makes absolutely no sense, but that feels like something out of a Superman comic from that time. It feels silly and goofy like a comic book, while in the later movies it just felt kind of dumb. This is the only movie out of the Reeve movies that feels like it actually delves into Superman as a character and does something interesting with him. The tone is just this magical, whimsical movie that makes you feel good and filled with hope. The action is solid and the effects still hold up pretty well. I don't know what else I can say about this movie. It's just fantastic. I do have some little problems with it though. I think Gene Hackman is a really good Lex Luthor, but this version of Lex just feels kind of dated. Like, he works for this movie, but I feel like his portrayal of this character in these movies just feels kind of like a product of his time. Also, while the movie is really well paced, I do think it drags at some points. But again, these small issues don't take away from how fantastic of a movie this is. 9.5 out of 10. More than worthy of the title of the grandfather and blueprint of superhero movies. And there's a good reason why it's remained being called the best Superman movie ever for so long. But I believe it has finally been dethroned. Number 1. Superman 2025. I just want to start this off by saying that I walked into that theater with this cape on, and I walked out of it never being prouder to be a Superman fan. This is not recency bias. It is genuine. It has been a very, very long time since I've seen an opening to a movie universe that is this strong. I absolutely adore everything about this movie. I will be talking about this movie in length with spoilers, so if you don't want to be spoiled about the movie, click off now, go watch this masterpiece, and then come back. First off, let me get my very few problems with this movie out of the way. I will admit the pacing does go a bit quick for the movie. Some of the CGI looks a little off, and Hawkgirl really doesn't contribute much to the movie beyond the third act. That's it. That's all my problems with this movie. Now, what do I like about this movie? Literally everything else. First off, the cast. David Cornsweet is my second favorite Superman of all time. I still like Tyler a little more, but it is very close. His acting as this character is just perfect Superman. The way he changes the tone of his voice from the meek-mannered Clark Kent to the confident Superman is just great. He perfects all of Superman's mannerisms and character traits. His want to do good, his friendly attitude towards others, his trusting in everyone and belief that everyone has good in them, his frustrations and anger when he's told by others that he can't help people. And Superman himself in this movie has a really great arc about identity. I know a lot of people don't really like the change of having Jor-El and Lara being these evil people who sent Clark down to Earth in order to conquer Earth and continue his Kryptonian bloodline. But I like this change for two reasons. For one, it adds more complexity to their characters because from their point of view, they're not trying to be maliciously evil. They just want their bloodline to continue after Krypton's destruction. And for two, it takes something that we think is fundamental about Superman's character, flips it on its head, and sees how the story can keep the core of Superman while dealing with that change. It really helps with Clark's arc of realizing that he gets to choose who he wants to be. He was sent to conquer and have others serve him, but he ended up saving others and serving their needs over his own. And the scene where Pa Kent tells Clark that his choices make him who he is was just excellent. And Clark's excellent monologue at the end where he just tells Lex that being human is his greatest strength, that is Superman. This movie just injects hope into you like a drug. So basically, the first time you take heroin, Rachel Brosnahan is perfect as Lois Lane. She has Lois's spunk, that determination to do good and be the best reporter she can be, no matter who she has to fight with to get the truth. Her dynamic with Clark in this movie is easily top 3 adaptations of Clark and Lois's relationship in film and television. Like, these actually feel like two people who are in a loving relationship, and the scene where they argue at Lois's apartment feels so real. I love how they grow into that loving relationship. It gives both of them great development. The side characters are great. The Justice Gang are all fun characters. Nathan Fillion is actually perfect as Guy Gardner. I finally understand why everyone loves Mr. Terrific. That man stole every scene he was in. Hawkgirl was fun even though she didn't contribute much to the story. I like the Daily Planet characters. I think this is the first time in a Superman movie that I actually really like Jimmy Olsen. He's such an iconic character to the Superman mythos, yet it always felt like the movie sidelined him hard or just straight up killed him. And the others are pretty fun characters. Ma and Pa Kent aren't in that much of the movie, but they use their limited screen time in this movie very well. Again, Pa's little talk with Clark was amazing. Metamorpho was a pretty good character. Loved his development from timid and meek to becoming strong and hopeful in the final battle thanks to Superman. The Fortress robots were pretty fun background characters. The antagonists are all really good. The Engineer was a pretty good challenge to Superman. Ultraman was a great threat, and the twist of him being a clone of Superman I think was well handled. Though a small part of me really wishes it was Henry under that mask. But we need to talk about Nicholas Hoult as Lex Luthor. Look at this scene of Lex screaming 1A. Look at the veins popping out of this man's head. You'd think Nicholas actually hates David behind the scenes with just his unbridled fury in this scene. Lex steals every scene he is in this movie. Nicholas manages to convey his intelligence very well, but it's his hatred for Superman that is conveyed well the most in this movie. This man started a war between countries just to kill Superman. He was willing to let Metropolis and possibly the world be destroyed via a black hole just because of how much he hates Superman. And they make you hate Lex in this movie to the point where Superman's victory over Lex at the end feels all the more satisfying. This man shot my boy Molly in cold blood in front of Superman. It would be on sight for me. And finally, Krypto. He is the goodest boy, and I do not understand why so many people hate his inclusion in this movie. Do y'all just hate whimsy? The cast of this movie is simply incredible. The effects look great for the most part. The action is exciting, and I absolutely love the flying scenes in this movie. The score is sensational, even though I do wish they would try and do their own thing like Man of Steel did. It's incredible, but maybe let's try and not just be stuck with the same thing we've been stuck with for the last nearly 50 years at this point. The tone is just perfect. It does not take itself as seriously as the Snyder movies did, and it really does feel like a Superman comic book come to life. Like the post-credit scenes just feel like little Superman comics that you'd see on I don't know, a cereal box or something. The dialogue can be very cheesy at points, but it's that good comic cheese that you love to see. It just makes it feel good and hopeful about life when the world really needs something like this the most right now. It works really well as a setup for the rest of the DCU with its world building, but above all else, it's just a good Superman story. Supergirl scene at the end was really funny, and it's a great setup for a potentially great Supergirl movie next year, fingers crossed. But I think the number one thing that this movie has that makes it so much better than every other Superman movie ever made, barring the original Superman, is that it strikes a balance. In Superman 2 through 4 and Returns, they felt like movies that, while giving us the Superman stuff we're familiar with, didn't really do anything interesting with the character. They kind of just felt like movies with Superman in it, and not much else. Meanwhile, with Snyder's movies, they changed too much about the Superman mythos to do something interesting with it, to the point where it barely felt like Superman anymore. James Gunn's Superman is the first time since the original 78 Superman where it struck that perfect balance of giving us the classic Superman elements we all know and love, while at the same time having enough unique elements and changes where it creates a compelling Superman story. This is the best Superman story told through film since 1978. Period. James Gunn is the first movie director since Richard Donner to understand what makes Superman Superman. All in all, I adore James Gunn's Superman. This is the Superman character's equivalent to the Batman. It's not as good as the Batman, but it's still absolutely incredible. I have not felt this happy walking out of a superhero movie since probably Across the Spider-Verse, and I am happy to say the DCU has a bright future ahead of them. 10 out of 10. This is the Superman movie. So, what did we learn today, kids? Besides the fact that making Richard Pryor the lead of a Superman movie is a really bad idea. Overall, Superman hasn't had the best track record when it comes to films, but it feels like we're now getting a lot of amazing Superman projects. Superman and Lois is easily one of, if not the best DC show to come out in years. My Adventures with Superman is great, even though I still need to watch season 2. Absolute Superman, I hear, is pretty good. And of course, the absolute masterpiece I just discussed, that is James Gunn's Superman. And it feels like we've finally gotten out of the dark age that is the 2010s era of Superman, where people thought that he could only be interesting when he was dark, serious, or evil because of stuff like the Snyderverse and Injustice. Which, side note, Injustice really isn't that good of a story, but I don't feel like getting into that debate right now. But with all these newer, well-received projects that have shown happy, hopeful Superman for the most part, it feels like we're finally entering a new era of Superman media, and to that extent, movies, where we have storytellers who are willing to give the fans the stuff we love about Superman and his little piece of the world of DC, while also exploring new ideas that give us more and better stories. Superman is such an iconic and beloved character for a reason, and I am so happy to say that his future, and the future of DC as a whole, looks brighter than ever. Oh, I'm not talking about Superman? Oh, thank God I can finally take this stupid costume off. Oh my God in heaven. This is the type of itchy that will turn Spidey and his amazing friends into the boys.